Welcome to Conspiracist. Today we're taking a deep dive into a set of ideas, proposing that governments might be intentionally concealing evidence related to cryptocurrencies and, well, a potential move towards global control.
Right. We've gathered various sources, surveys, technical analyses, regulatory discussions to really explore the reasoning and, the evidence cited for these hypotheses.
And our aim here is to objectively examine these claims.
Yeah.
We're not taking a position, just focusing on understanding the information presented in these materials we've looked at.
Exactly. The sources give us a pretty complex picture. We're looking at public belief in conspiracies around digital currencies, the tech behind crypto and CBDCs.
That's central bank digital currencies.
Right. Also, challenges to crypto's decentralization, its links to crime, the regulatory responses.
Those historical New World Order narratives, too, how they might connect.
Plus the impact on national sovereignty, monetary policy, the whole government control versus privacy debate.
Yeah, and what motivates crypto owners, the trust involved in these systems.
The risks and potential of decentralized finance, and even how scams are exploiting some of these conspiracy beliefs. It's a lot to unpack.
Okay, let's start with those public beliefs. Some research out of King's College London, it suggests a significant chunk of the UK population actually believes in conspiracies related to CBDCs and other issues.
Yeah, something like 1 in 3 people holding beliefs around things like 15-minute cities, cost of living, and, importantly for us, digital currencies being part of some larger plan.
And what really stood out was the link they found between these beliefs and where people get their news.
Absolutely. The correlation with consuming news from, let's say, alternative media outlets was quite strong. Belief in certain theories, like the Great Replacement, was significantly higher among frequent readers of specific sites.
It really raises questions about information ecosystems, doesn't it? How they shape these, pretty complex perceptions.
It does, and it's not just passive belief, according to the research.
No. Apparently up to a quarter said they'd be willing to, protest or take direct action against things like CBDCs or a perceived deep state.
And a smaller but still notable minority felt violence could even be justified. That points to a really deep level of distrust in established institutions.
That potential for action is significant. What might be driving that?
Well, likely a mix of things. Deep concern, certainly. Distrust, as I said. And perhaps the narratives in some media sources amplify those feelings, making people feel they need to act.
There was also a gender difference mentioned.
Yeah, men were apparently more inclined to say they'd take direct action specifically against CBDCs. Interesting detail.
Okay, let's pivot from public perception to the actual technology. There's a crucial difference between cryptocurrencies and these central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. That seems central here.
It really is. A CBDC is essentially just a digital version of a country's existing money, like a digital pound or dollar issued and backed by the central bank. It's their liability.
So like digital cash from the government.
Pretty much. Cryptocurrencies, on the other hand, like Bitcoin, run on decentralized networks. They don't have that central backing. That difference in control is, fundamental.
And central banks are looking at different ways to structure these CBDCs.
Yeah, mainly wholesale, which is for transactions between banks, and retail, which would be for, you and me to use day to day. Some research predicts a future with a lot more CBDC use and less physical cash.
And many are looking at using blockchain or similar technologies, distributed ledger technology, DLT, for their designs. That seems almost contradictory.
It does, doesn't it? Because we associate blockchain with Bitcoin's decentralization, but the technology itself, DLT, is flexible.
So they can use it for efficiency or security, but still keep control.
Exactly. They want the benefits of the tech without giving up the central authority. Which, interestingly, brings us to a debate within the crypto world itself.
About how decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin actually are.
Precisely. You see discussions online, like on Reddit, raising concerns, for example, about Bitcoin's mining power, the hash rate being concentrated.
Hash rate. That's the computing power securing the network, right?
Correct. And if a huge chunk of that power is controlled by just a few large mining pools, it raises questions.
Because the original idea was to get away from central points of control, like banks.
Exactly. So this concentration worries people. Could these pools collude? Could they influence transactions or network rules? It introduces a degree of centralization.
But there are counter-arguments.
Sure, people point out that these pools are made up of many individual miners, and maybe they wouldn't easily collude. Plus, other aspects of Bitcoin, like the open ledger and the fact anyone can participate, still offer decentralization. It's debated.
Okay. Another big piece of this puzzle is the link between crypto and crime. This comes up a lot in arguments for more regulation.
Yeah, and it's undeniable that crypto can be misused. Its pseudonymity, the ease of cross-border transfers, they can appeal to criminals for money laundering scams, ransomware payments, you name it.
We hear about fraud, rug pulls, and DeFi.
All that, yes. But it's also important to see the other side. Some argue crypto can actually bring people into the formal financial system, those who were previously excluded.
And what about the scale of the illicit activity? Is crypto primarily used for crime?
Well, the data, for instance, from firms like Chainalysis suggests that while the total dollar amount linked to crime is large, as a percentage of all crypto activity, it's relatively small, maybe comparable to the percentage in traditional finance.
So the narrative might be a bit overblown.
It could be, yeah. Doesn't mean the problem isn't real, especially things like theft from DeFi protocols, which seems to be a growing issue. But painting the entire space as criminal isn't accurate based on that data.
And all this inevitably leads to regulation. What's happening on that front?
It's evolving fast. Globally, regulators are trying to figure it out. In the U.S., you've got the SEC looking at crypto-like securities, the IRS focused on taxes.
And internationally.
The Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, is pushing hard for countries to adopt standards for virtual assets. And the companies that deal with them, VASPs, they call them.
Virtual asset service providers.
Right, including decentralized exchanges and stablecoins. The big focus is on applying standard anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing rules, AML-CFT.
So trying to make crypto traceable, essentially.
That's a big part of it, yeah. And looking ahead, like into 2025, we're seeing really different paths.
How so?
Well, you have countries like El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender. Then the EU is bringing in its comprehensive MiCA regulations. China, meanwhile, has cracked down really hard.
Banning mining and trading.
Some of that, yeah. And the U.S. is still working towards clearer rules. Plus, there's more scrutiny everywhere on how crypto is advertised.
Okay, let's connect this back to some of the broader conspiracy narratives. The idea of a new world order sometimes gets linked to financial control.
It does. Historically, that NWO conspiracy theory often involves fears of a secret cabal, maybe international bankers or shadowy elites, aiming to establish a one-world government.
Using things like the UN or controlling finance.
Exactly. Controlling money, controlling institutions. Some versions talked about combining capitalism and communism under their control. It taps into anti-globalist sentiment and deep suspicion of powerful groups.
And more recently, maybe fears about digital currencies or regional unions feed into that.
Potentially, yes. For some, things like CBDCs or discussions about digital IDs could be seen as steps towards that kind of centralized global control system that the theory warns about.
Which brings us neatly to the impact on national sovereignty. If people start widely using non-government digital currencies, what does that mean for central banks?
That's the core of the cryptoization concern. If a lot of economic activity shifts to, say, Bitcoin or a stable coin not issued by the national central bank, it gets harder for that bank to manage the economy.
Their traditional tools, like setting interest rates, become less effective.
Potentially, yes. They lose some control over the money supply and capital flows. Research from central banks themselves, like the Bank of England, acknowledges they need to understand and adapt to this, whether it's private digital currencies or their own CBDCs.
So this potential loss of control is a major driver for governments wanting to regulate or perhaps issue their own digital currencies.
It certainly seems plausible. It's about maintaining monetary sovereignty.
But then you have the flip side. Government control versus privacy. CBDCs, may state-issued, seem like they could enable massive surveillance.
That's a huge concern for many people. If every transaction is logged on a central bank ledger, privacy essentially disappears. It makes monitoring citizens' financial lives incredibly easy.
Whereas Bitcoin, while not totally anonymous because the ledger is public, it offers pseudonymity, right?
Right. Your real-world identity isn't directly linked to your wallet address unless you reveal it somehow. That appeals to people seeking more financial independence or privacy from oversight.
And we've seen examples, haven't we, where governments have used financial controls against protesters by freezing bank accounts.
Yes, the Canada example is often cited. Controlling access to the traditional banking system is a powerful tool for governments.
And crypto offers a potential way around that. Censorship resistance, cross-border payments without banks.
That's the argument. It could bypass traditional financial choke points and potentially government controls. It allows peer-to-peer value transfer globally.
And surveys show crypto users often really value that privacy aspect.
They do. Many use private wallets specifically to maintain more control and anonymity over their funds, suggesting privacy is a key motivation for at least some users.
Speaking of motivations, what else do we know about people who own crypto? There was a study looking at their characteristics.
Yeah, interesting findings there. It found a correlation between owning crypto and believing in conspiracy theories, which fits some narratives we've discussed.
But correlation isn't causation, of course.
Exactly. And actually, the stronger predictors of crypto ownership were things like being male, relying on alternative or fringe social media for news again, that link being more argumentative, and having an aversion to authoritarianism.
An aversion to authoritarianism.
Huh.
That fits with the desire for financial independence.
It does seem to connect. Interestingly, though, crypto owners weren't monolithic politically. They came from across the spectrum.
Okay, let's talk about trust. Crypto relies heavily on, well, cryptography complex math to work. Does that mean you don't need to trust anyone?
Not quite. It's more complex. While the underlying math, the cryptography, might be verifiable, using these systems in the real world still involves trusting something. Like the software developers, the wallet providers, the exchanges you use, the whole ecosystem around the core technology. Trust doesn't disappear, it shifts. Sometimes it shifts to a community of service providers themselves.
So even with end-to-end encryption, you're trusting the provider implemented it correctly.
Right. Or you're trusting that they can't access your data because of the encryption. It's about where the trust lies and how it's established. It's definitely not trustless in an absolute sense.
And this relates to decentralized finance, or DeFi. It promises a new financial system, but are there trust issues there too?
Huge ones. DeFi aims to recreate financial services lending, borrowing, trading on blockchains without traditional middlemen. The potential for efficiency is there.
But the risks. We mentioned hacks earlier.
Exactly. Hacks, scams, bugs in the code. Plus, there's a growing concern about percentualization. Meaning that even in systems designed to be decentralized, power can sometimes end up back in the hands of a few developers or large token holders who control governance votes. Maintaining genuine decentralization is proving challenging.
And finally, how do scammers exploit all this interest in crypto, especially linking it to conspiracy ideas?
We're seeing scam ads that explicitly tap into that distrust of banks and governments. They promise secret knowledge, maybe linked to crypto, that will supposedly let you beat the elites and get rich quick.
Preying on that skepticism towards the mainstream financial system.
Precisely. They weave a narrative that sounds a bit like the central bank conspiracy theories, but position crypto, or some specific scam coin, as the secret way to fight back and gain wealth. It's exploiting both financial anxieties and conspiratorial thinking.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up, we've covered a lot of ground exploring this hypothesis about government concealment, cryptocurrencies, and global control.
Yeah, from public beliefs shaped by media to the nitty-gritty of CBDC tech versus crypto decentralization.
The real issues of crime and the varying regulatory responses.
The historical context of NWO fears, the impact on sovereignty, the privacy battles.
Who owns crypto and why, the complexities of trust in these systems, and how it's all vulnerable to scams.
Our goal was really just to lay out the different perspectives and the information from our sources objectively, showing how complex and interconnected these issues are.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Consider this interplay. You've got technological innovation, pushing boundaries, clashing with individual beliefs and fears, triggering government responses, all tangled up with this enduring fascination we seem to have with hidden power.
Which parts of this resonate most strongly with you? What other questions pop into your head now? It's definitely a space to keep watching.
Indeed it is. Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.